Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and thank you for joining me today to talk about Private Eye July. This is a booktube event created by the channel Mystery and Mayhem to celebrate private eye fiction during the month of course, July. I know there are two prompts for this event. One is to read a work of private eye fiction that was published somewhere between 1920 and 1970, and the second prompt is to read a work of private eye fiction published from 1970 to the present moment. Now, I fulfilled the first prompt to read an older work of private eye literature. And for that, I read Rex Stout's novel And Be a Villain, which is one of the Nero Wolfe mystery stories. This is from 1948. This is my first novel by Rex Stout that I've ever read. So I'll give you a little review of that in celebration of Private Eye July. But first, I wanted to introduce you to a special guest. This is my Humphrey Bogart piggy bank that I picked up at an antique shop a few weeks ago. Now, I know the images on this bank of Humphrey Bogart and a plane are more evocative of Casablanca, which I know is not a private eye story. But because Humphrey Bogart did play private eye characters at other parts of his career, I thought this was a fitting accompaniment to my Private Eye July wrap up. Now, because I am a big fan of the golden age of Hollywood, I knew I was going to buy this as soon as I saw it on the shelf in the antique store. But when I brought it home and started putting coins into it, I realized that it had something even more special about it, which is that Humphrey Bogart winks at you every time you insert a coin. So I will attempt to demonstrate that for you right now. Okay, let's try to eliminate some glare here. Okay, now look deep into his eyes and see if you spot the wink. There you go. I'll show it to you again. There you go. Now there's also some kind of, looks like a rudimentary device on the back here. I'm wondering if it played any sort of audio. Maybe we heard Humphrey Bogart saying, here's looking at you, kid, or something like that. So perhaps I can try to get this up and running as well, which might be a little bit too uncanny, but if maybe I try to get the full experience of this piggy bank. So I'm going to put him up here to watch over the rest of this book review. Okay, on to Rex Stout and Be a Villain. So the premise of this book is that there is a popular radio show hosted by a woman named Madeline Fraser. And this show has a sponsor, a soft drink named High Spot. And during each episode, Madeline Fraser and her guests will drink High Spot as part of a sponsored advertisement. During one of the filmings of the show, however, when Madeline Fraser and her guests are drinking this drink, one of the guests falls over dead, and we later learned that he was poisoned with cyanide. So it falls on Nero Wolfe to figure out who committed this crime. And Nero Wolfe, as he is famously known, is the private eye detective. He lives in New York in a luxurious brownstone. He loves eating gourmet meals, tending his orchids, reading, and solving mysteries from the comfort of his own home. So this book surprised me in a few different ways, since this is the first Nero Wolfe mystery that I've ever read. First of all, it was much funnier than I was anticipating. Now, I wasn't expecting something grim or hard-boiled, but there were still many more quips and witticisms in the narration than I expected, and it was a very pleasant surprise. Most of these witty remarks come from the first person narrator, Archie Goodwin, who works for Nero Wolfe as kind of his right hand man. And I really liked Archie's narration style. Kept me very engaged with the book, made me want to keep reading, endeared me to him for the most part. There were a few observations from Archie that I thought were a bit misogynistic, but they did not make me want to stop reading the book, did not really detract from my enjoyment of the story, just made me feel a little bit more distant from Archie as a character. Uh, he probably isn't a person that I would want to get a drink with. Then again, Archie Goodwin states quite plainly that he finds a woman unattractive once she turns 30, so he probably would not want to get a drink with me either. So perhaps we're on the same page. But overall, I thought the narration was very engaging, very funny, definitely made me want to read more in this series. I also really enjoyed how quickly the story jumped into the central mystery. The book begins with Nero Wolfe and Archie doing Wolfe's taxes. Wolfe finds himself in need of a little bit more money or something, some mystery to solve. So he contacts the police and insinuates himself into this radio program murder. And that all happens within the first chapter or two. So there's not really much framing or preamble. We're thrown right into the central mystery. And I really liked that style or that pacing of the narrative. I also liked how what I assume are some of the recurring characters of the series are integrated really smoothly into the narrative. So that includes Archie and some of the other individuals that Wolfe hires to do some investigative work. There really is not much background given for any of them. They just appear in the narrative. Um, they do have personality, especially Archie, but Stout doesn't devote much time to developing their backstories or explaining much of their connection to Wolfe, how they came to work for him. And I liked that narration style. I thought that it kept the story moving quite quickly. And I didn't find myself wanting necessarily to know more about those characters. I was happy with what we were given about them and the role that they played in the plot of the mystery. So I do think that this book could be accused of meandering a little bit toward the middle. We're given many examples of Wolfe's ingenuity as he starts to uncover different facets of this mystery. Some secrets that the characters are keeping, that the suspects are keeping, are brought to light. But toward the middle, there are some new plot points and a few new characters who are rather abruptly introduced, I found. And it almost seemed at one moment as if we were pivoting to an entirely new mystery. Now, I trusted Stout and Wolfe to wrap everything up into a cohesive whole, and that did prove to be the case. But there were a few points toward the middle where I wasn't really sure where things were going, and I kind of wanted things to speed up a little bit. And in terms of the ending, I was very satisfied with the solution that we got to the mystery story. But I do think that if I read more in this series, that I might have to temper my expectations for the drama of the solution or denouement of the story. Now, I've read some Golden Age mysteries. I'm thinking especially of the Poirot mysteries, where there is a very dramatic last minute reveal. Poirot will gather together all of the suspects, and it seems that he'll be putting pressure on one particular individual. But then suddenly things will sharply pivot, and it turns out it was another person all along, the person that we never even would have suspected of committing this crime. So I was wondering if a similar plot device would show up in and be a villain. And it turns out that it did not. Um, there are some marvels of Wolfe's ingenuity in the final scene where he has gathered all of the suspects and is announcing that he's going to reveal the murderer. And so things are quite dramatic in that sense because we have an impending sense of revelation. But the solution to the mystery to me was not very surprising, certainly not shocking. And there wasn't really any last minute twist. As Wolf began putting pressure on one particular suspect, that person turned out to be the culprit, the person who committed the crime. But that's not necessarily a fault of the story. As I said, it was still a very satisfying ending. So overall, I really enjoyed this book. It was pretty delightful reading. I was happy to pick it up in the moments in between writing or editing parts of my dissertation when I just wanted a break and something light and fun to read. And I look forward to picking up more installments in the Wolf Mystery series. This one appealed to me because I'm so interested in the popular culture of 1940s America. When I saw that the crime revolved around a popular mystery, or not mystery, a popular radio program, I thought that sounded like a great setting. So that's why I chose this one. It also got quite a high rating on Goodreads. But then again, it seems that a lot of the Nero Wolfe mysteries get over a 4 rating on Goodreads. So take that for what it's worth. It just uh, made this one even more appealing to me as my very first outing with Nero Wolfe. Yeah, so I do definitely recommend And Be a Villain. And if you have read this one or any other Nero Wolfe novels, do let me know in the comments. If you have a favorite one that I should read next, tell me about it. And I will see you in my next video. Thank you, everyone.